Now that the wash is dry, we are going to start to practice with using the different types of textures. I want you to practice using all of them to see which ones you would like to use in your project and which ones are not your favorite or ones that you don't want to use. You can also combine multiple textures together. At the beginning, I'm going to show you how to use them separately, and then I'll kind of show you how you could use them to be combined. So the first thing, I'm going to just use a small brush. I'm going to mix just a couple colors up so we can show you those. So we'll mix some green. Again, make sure you're adding plenty of water. You do not want the paint to be shiny, so more water is always best. All right, we'll probably use a little of that red that we already have mixed. And we'll mix some purple. I think that should be good. All right, so the first texture I'm going to show you is going to be the salt. Now first, you want to make sure that you take the lids off of the texture, so the rubbing alcohol and the salt, so you're ready to go. The textures only work when there's plenty of liquid on your paper. If it starts to dry out, it will not work at all. One of the requirements is that the texture is used and seen, so that means it actually needs to work. So the first thing I'll do is I'll just grab a little bit of the purple. We'll just kind of paint it on. It doesn't really matter how, we're just going to practice using the texture, so you can just kind of create a blob of the color. And even for fun, if you want to get another color and put that kind of next to it so they blend, you can do that just for fun. Okay, so for the salt, I'm going to kind of hold this a little bit closer. You're going to just get a little bit of salt and you're going to sprinkle it over the top. Now, the texture doesn't automatically appear. You have to let it dry. Once it's dried, then you'll be able to see that the texture is now visible. Now, with the salt, you don't want to grab a whole handful of it and sprinkle it on the top. The more salt that you have doesn't make it look better. It just ruins it. So you just need a little tiny bit of salt and then the texture will work. Also, you will lose privileges of doing the project if you decide to sprinkle salt at a neighbor, or the same thing with the rubbing alcohol. If you do that with the rubbing alcohol and try to splash it at a neighbor, you will lose the privilege of doing the project and you will receive a 0. So make sure that you are using the supplies how they are meant to be used, so you can finish the project. All right, that was the salt. Now the rubbing alcohol, we will use, let's see, we'll use the red. Again, just do the same thing, kind of paint some of the color on, making sure that there's plenty of water, plenty of liquid so the texture will work. Again, it does not work if you don't have enough liquid there. Okay, I'm also gonna get some purple, kind of put it next to it, or maybe around the sides a little. All right, I'll hold it up again so you can kind of see. Now, for the rubbing alcohol, you can just dip your fingers in and then kind of sprinkle it on. You can also just dip a finger in and then dot it down. So how this works, just sprinkle it on, and you can kind of see that reaction. When the rubbing alcohol hits the paper, it moves the watercolor away, so it kind of leaves a white spot. Okay, so that's the rubbing alcohol. The next one we will use is the plastic wrap. So let's get a different color. We'll use some of the blue, maybe some of the green. So for the plastic wrap, you're just going to kind of press it together however you want, and then you'll just press it down onto the top. Now, what you're going to do is you leave the plastic wrap on the paper the whole time until it is dry. You're going to know that it's dried because it will actually start to lift off of the paper by itself. What the plastic wrap does, it leaves kind of darker and lighter, almost organic-like shapes. So that one can kind of be interesting. The last I'm going to show you is using paper towel. Now, the paper towel can be used for making mistakes or fixing mistakes. So let's say that you accidentally are painting and some drips down onto your paper. If you work quick, you have your paper towel ready and you press it down, it actually can lift up the majority of that color, and so it'll disappear. The paper towel can also be used just to create kind of lighter areas in a painting. So if we're using different colors kind of next to each other, you can just kind of bunch up the paper towel and then dot it down into different sections or different areas, which will kind of create some lighter areas. So that's the example of the paper towel. So these are all the textures. Again, you can combine textures. So I'll show you just one more over here. Let's say that we want to use the salt and rubbing alcohol. You can do that. So again, you just do the whole painting part. And then we can use the rubbing alcohol. And then you could sprinkle some salt right on the top, and you'll get both effects of the salt and the rubbing alcohol.